Recently, I decided to take a break from the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG since I am overall unhappy with the current way the game is being run, along with it being way too expensive for me to keep up with if I want to compete at the highest level. A friend showed me a new game coming out called Battle Spirit Saga, and I really fell in love with it. I know a lot of new card games that try to enter the English market tend to fail or underperform, but I really hope this one does well because it has been a breath of fresh air to me and does a lot of things I really like. This will be a review of the game as of Set 1, so there is potential for this video to be out of date by the time you possibly see it in the future, as the game has progressed into certain directions, positive or otherwise. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to record my own gameplay of the game, so we'll just be using footage from the recent grand opening in Ohio. As of Set 1, the game feels pretty well balanced. Every deck and color has their own unique mechanics and win conditions, without feeling like one is so much better than the others by a really large margin. There are the best decks like Red Pterosaur currently, and some setups can be pretty annoying, but other decks like Purple Control, Purple Midrange, Yellow Luster, Yellow Fabled Beast, White Control, and White Aggro can all still beat Red Pterosaur. Red Pterosaur isn't just a complete blowout that guarantees your win. Some matchups are an uphill battle, but unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! Where sometimes you just get into a match and the game is completely turned off for one player due to the interactions between each deck, even in your worst matchups there is still a pretty healthy back and forth. The mulligan system and how choosing who goes first is really nice in this game. Each player draws 4 cards at the start of the game, then they both look at their hands and decide if they want to keep it or not. If they choose to, then they draw a 5th card. If they want to mulligan, they take those 4 cards, put it at the bottom of their deck, and draw a fresh 4. Only after this is when you shuffle, so this guarantees that the next 4 cards you draw aren't going to be the exact ones you put back into your deck. The player who won the die roll then decides if they wish to go first or second after they look at their hand, unlike in other TCGs where you just decide right as soon as you win the die roll, which you then have to pray whatever you end up drawing is something playable for the turn you are starting with. Whoever ends up going first draws an additional card for their turn. So if you did not mulligan, you start your turn 1 with 6 cards in your hand, and if you did mulligan, you start with 5. That 5th card you draw for your turn after mulliganing is only drawn after you shuffled your deck. Another great thing about this game is, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh!, there is a repository for rulings and easy ways to find out rulings and interactions for cards. As of Set 1, the rulings are all pretty straightforward. There's only really one card interaction that had me scratching my head, and I had to be told from an outside source, no, this isn't how that works. That being how Pentan, a card whose effect is reducing the mana cost of magic spells, does not reduce the cost of a burst, which is basically a trap version of a magic card in this game. Why it does that, I don't exactly know. My guess is because a burst is technically not being considered as a magic card on the field right now. Who fucking knows? But now anybody else watching this video will know it too, so you don't get accidentally cheated when people use a reduction on a burst spell with the mana they otherwise would not have enough to cast. I really like how this game uses mana compared to something like Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, or Artifact. Firstly, your mana are physical little plastic gems, or these mana cards if you want to use those instead, which, as someone who really enjoys the tactile feel of playing a card game in person over an online simulator, this sets my neurons on fire. The other cool thing about mana in this game is that unless you actively spent it for a summon or magic card, the mana you have to keep monsters alive and raise their levels is still active mana you can use at any time and move it around as you please, while not being limited to a dedicated mana moving phase of the game, or only a certain amount of times during the main phase, like changing battle positions in Yu-Gi-Oh! This mana can also be taken off monsters to use for the cost of magic cards. Let's say, for example, I'm trying to swing with my boss monster to either pressure damage to their life or require them to block with a monster, which gives me advantage by depleting their on-field reductions. They activate one of their quick play spells called Flash in this game, which increases their attack. I then have a window to activate a flash of my own. In this case, I then activate Dream Bomb, bouncing their monster to their hand so my monster wouldn't die trying to clash with it. Because of having the flash phase and allowing you to use mana on cards or in your reserve, it makes the game really interactive. And as of Set 1, there isn't much in the sense of floodgates outside of a few cards which are only contextual floodgates, like a level 1 monster cannot attack, so you just have to put more mana, or cores as they're referred to, onto your monsters to raise them to level 2 or 3, which does change up how you have to approach the game, but it doesn't create scenarios like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you just need to draw the out to their floodgate because otherwise there is no way to turn it off. And if you happen to not have the answer to said floodgate in your main deck, then you're shit out of luck. I find the really back and forth nature of this game really enjoyable, but it also makes the game extremely stressful, at least for me, because it always feels like there is the invisible pressure of your opponent having some crazy stuff in their hand waiting for you to walk into it, turning what was once a winning scenario for you into a losing one. It's often hard in the moment to feel like, man, I am just in an unbeatable position, there is no way my opponent can come back. Another great thing about this game right now is that it is really approachable both from a cost sense and a competitive sense. Since this is the first set, there are only so many cards you have to be mindful of, so after putting in some work to study the game or simply playing it, I feel like I have a really good grasp of the game currently. I've managed to win a store championship and got second at 2 others, with those games being close enough that if I played better, I probably could have won, which is a lot better than I can say about my accomplishments in Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you are someone like me who put a lot of time only into Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to the other competitive TCGs on the market right now, then there is a decent learning curve since not much skill carries over between the 2 games. It felt like the first month or so of playing this game, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just getting completely destroyed every game, and since I didn't know what I was doing wrong, it was hard for me to improve my play for the future. Thankfully, I have a lot of friends who are really good at the game, and I was able to bounce ideas and talk theory with them, and get a much better grasp of what the mindsets I should be having when playing. Compared to Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially recently with back-to-back expensive as hell generic engines like Adventurer and Bestial, or expensive as hell decks like Kashtira and Pearly, one which got hit before it even got a chance to compete longer than 2 weeks, it's a breath of fresh air that this game is really cheap, and I pray to every and any god out there that it stays that way. I really hope that this game does not become infested with the worst type of TCG enjoyer, and instead stays accessible for everybody who wants to enjoy the game, and not people who want to ruin it for their own financial gain. The most expensive card in the game at the time of writing this, outside of a foiled version of pre-existing cards or alternate arts, is $15. And decks like White Aggro don't even play it. A far cry from Yu-Gi-Oh! Where a single Kashtira Fenrir was going for $80, or a single Pot of Prosperity was going from $100 to $120, or the worst one, Bestial Magnamut, going for $30 as a super rare, the thing that comes in every single pack. The game has an overall good rarity system compared to something like Yu-Gi-Oh!, at least its TCG version. Most cards are a common, with the ability to come as a foil, which one is included in every pack, so if you want a cheap version, they are there for you, but if you are someone who wants to bling out their deck, that is also an option too. Though I am not a fan of how rares are done in this game. I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the only game apparently that makes rares different from commons visually, but it feels really arbitrary what makes a card a rare or a common. The only difference in this game is the microscopic C or R in the bottom right hand corner of the card. As of right now, I don't know how Bandai is going to be handling reprints, but hopefully we get good reprint sets like Yu-Gi-Oh! Megatons, or put staples like the $15 Ice Shield in later structure decks down the line. There are some things that bother me about the game currently that could be worrying for the future of the game and or something that could be improved. Having a side deck only be 10 cards is such an awkward number for a game with 4 card playsets. It just feels really bad if you want to put in side deck cards that could cover all of your bases for any potential matchups. You can't put any actual playsets, you just have to put 1 or 2 so you manage to fit everything in. The side deck isn't mission critical in this game as it is in Yu-Gi-Oh! And most events are best of 1 until later parts of the tournament, so it isn't too annoying yet, but maybe we can see a size increase for the side deck. Though I do like how you can just shove all of your side deck cards into your deck and you don't have to swap them out like in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you want to increase your deck size limit to 60 and become more inconsistent but have more power cards, especially in a certain matchup, then you can just do that, which I think is pretty cool. The biggest worry I have for this game is, will it stay cheap long term? It is a Bandai game, so tournament packs for participating in locals are filled with unique cards, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! Where OTS packs have reprints in higher rarities or lower rarities. This means that deck requirements can be found in these 1-card packs that you only get after spending $5 to go to a local each week. We've seen what has happened in the past with Dragon Ball and its tournament packs and how it boxes out people from playing the game because you need to spend $100 on a single tournament pack card. And I pray that this game does not make the same mistake. Hopefully they have something planned and in place to make tournament pack cards accessible once the tournament packs themselves go out of rotation for the next set, because worst case scenario, if they're gone for good, say any of those tournament pack 1 cards become good later down the line with future support from future main sets, those cards are suddenly going to become $40 or more overnight. It was already bad enough recently that if you wanted to play White Control, which you didn't have to play this card, but if you were playing it, you were at a much better advantage than someone who didn't have it, you wanted to have Axe Biter, which fluctuated in price, reaching up to $30. It has since gone back down, and you don't need to play it, but you're putting yourself at a disadvantage if you don't, and trying to pull it is incredibly difficult, as I've been going to locals for like 2 months and missing it every single time. We are still a few weeks away from the second set of the game, but Bandai has released an expansion set, and I am not sure how I feel about these. Think of them like the old Yu-Gi-Oh! Special editions from a few years ago. They're ranging from $10 to $15 online, and they have guaranteed cards in them that you absolutely want, as they are zero-cost summons that give you on-field reductions by being a body on the board, along with an additional 3 packs of the first set of the game. Part of me feels like this is them nickel and diming us, but if you are only playing one color in the game, then you can just buy a playset online for roughly $12. I don't know what the rarity distribution and ratios for these expansion packs are, so they are possibly and probably a decent deal since you get those guaranteed elementals plus the packs, which you can pull an Ice Shield, an Alt Art SPR, or the Saga rare, which is basically this game's Starlight rare. In the packs that I got for my expansion sets, I pulled an SPR Ice Shield, which is one of the best cards you can pull in the game right now, so hey, I can't really say one way or the other. The second biggest worry I have about this game is power creep. In set 2, they will be introducing the 5th color of the game, green, and in the 3rd set, they will be introducing the 6th color, blue. From what we've seen so far via card reveals, green looks incredibly strong and will likely shake up the meta a lot, as they have the ability to summon monsters during the flash phase, make tokens, and exhaust monsters via monster effects and spells. Hopefully the game keeps the even footing that it has with balance right now, where there is still a clear best option, but all the other decks are still really competitive. If that ends up not being the case, I hope that the game stays cheap at least, so getting the best deck isn't nearly $2,000 like it can be in Yu-Gi-Oh! In certain formats, especially if you don't have any of the staples. The Gundam crossover they're doing for set 2 is super cool. With all the IPs that Bandai has access to, hopefully we'll get some of the ones they did in the original Japanese card game like Evangelion, Kamen Rider, and Ultraman. I'm really excited for the future of this game. I love playing it whenever I get the chance. I'm trying to go to the event in PA in September and hope I do well enough to top the event, even if the invite is for the Pro Tour event in Europe, which I would not be able to go to. Bandai, if you see this, I'm down to shill your game because I actually really like it. But please don't make the same mistakes as Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, Dragon Ball, and pretty much every other TCG has made with this game. Please keep it good. If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks for watching as always. If you really liked the video, please leave a like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe and pass the video around. If you really like these videos and want to see more like it, then maybe consider becoming a patron on Patreon. It is the best way to support the channel. All patrons get access to videos a day early, along with a $7 tier that allows you to view rough cuts of upcoming videos. I'm now going to shout out all of my $5 and up patrons who really help support the channel. Mitchell, Bully, Densha, Lucy the Fox, Salt and Sweet Rum, Sir Newt Newt, Scary Dinosaur, Elliot Morton, Kohai Carmen, Lotto, Medi Not the Bad Guy, Nemphy, Quaner, Quartz, Samuel Egan, Sayan Heggy, Simply Aiden, Slemp Tingle, Swimming, Walkman, BBF in Bloxburg, NM, Revin, Cosmonaut Cola, Rovit, Ben Johnson, Buckets, Chichometrius, Cursed Void RTGC, Ekphraso, Filthy Fingers 69, Fishkami, Hardleg Joe, Kevin Velasquez, Lazy Titan, Megan, Nicholas Pedinato, Jordan Bennett, Sean the Berserker Fighter, Starcasters, The Worstest Guy, Applejuice 426, William Moore, and David Roberts. Thanks so much, guys. As for what's coming out next, I'm not really sure. I have a ton of videos still in the middle of production, things of varying degree of completion. I'm also slowly chipping away at Armored Core, but who knows whenever that's going to be out because there's 15 games I have to cover, I think. So if you really want to help support me as videos take really long to make, then the Patreon really helps out. I also have a NordVPN affiliate link in the description below using my promo code, and I also have a TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Any purchases you make while checking out using that link will give me a small kickback. And I think that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.